Hello everyone, welcome to this Hangout on Air on mobile app promotion. My name is Max, this is Jesse. We're mobile app specialists here at Google. And today we're going to take you through some of Google's offerings to promote your mobile app. We won't touch a whole lot on attribution today because this is part one of a series. So in the next episode, we will go really deep on how to measure the success of your app campaigns. And I hope all of you can tune in for that. So just to get started here, we want to talk a little bit about the state of the app industry. We'll give you a quick overview on measurement, but again, we'll dive into that more in the second episode. And then we'll go through all of the different app promotion products that Google offers today. So as you all know, we spend a lot of time on our smartphones today, and this number continues to increase. And a lot of that time on our phones is spent in mobile apps. Time in apps is just now exceeded time spent on TV. And so this is now a great way to reach your audience, no matter what vertical your company or your client's company is in. And the data shows that, and it's interesting, Jesse, I know when we joined the team a few years ago, it was all gaming, right? But now what we're starting to see is apps are diversifying in a really interesting way. If you look at this graph here, this is just growth by vertical and session time for apps. You don't even see gaming on the list. So, and in fact, you see a lot of more traditional verticals, like shopping and lifestyle companies, a lot of growth there in the different app sessions. And so this is becoming important for all businesses that are thinking about how is our business going to change in this new mobile centric world. And if the native app adds nice value for your customers, then you're certainly going to want to tune in for this episode and learn a little bit about how app promotion is different from promoting a website. And there's a lot of challenges, right? So a lot of apps haven't been downloaded, they're only used once, a lot of them are abandoned. Just a reminder, by the way, you can ask live questions here. Go ahead and go to the Hangout app, or you can post them on the event page, and Jesse and I will answer those at the end.
Cool. So in terms of app measurement, it really is a different beast from the web, and that's something we should get used to, kind of the app-specific terminology, and we can talk a little bit about implementation as well. So traditional web attribution, you have cookied users. So if I go on bloomingdales.com, they've captured me through a cookie, and whenever I'm on other websites, they have me on a remarketing list, and they can kind of remarket products to me. In terms of actually tracking conversions, so tracking, when people buy a shirt on bloomingdales.com, you have a pixel tag, essentially like a JavaScript tag that you might put on like the thank you page of the site that fires essentially when I go there to know, all right, this user is converted. On the app side, totally different. You have device identifiers. So for Android, you have ad IDs. For iOS, you have IDFAs. And these are essentially really long strings of numbers and letters that identify you as an app user. Again, app makers can use this for re-engagement. And instead of having a pixel, so JavaScript tag piece of code, you have an SDK, a software development kit that you install in your app. Couple things to note, on the web, some people are worried about pixel tags maybe slowing down the site, and with apps, some people worry about SDKs slowing down the app. You shouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's really important to get attribution, and so SDKs and pixel tags are both very, very important. Cool. So in terms of the landscape products you might use for attribution, you have your third parties, where essentially you can dedupe all of your installs across your different ad networks.
So if I'm running advertising on Google, I'm running on Facebook, I'm running on different advertising networks, these services essentially allow you to know where exactly your installs are coming from, what your ROI is on each network, so that you can allocate budget accordingly.
Facebook.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to note here, Jesse, is on web, your attribution platform is your analytics platform a lot of times. Certainly for most advertisers, they maybe are using Google Analytics, and they can track where you're coming from their ad campaigns, and then if they're converting, and also what people are doing on their website in general. The difference with apps is that those things currently are separate. So because you have to ping those user IDs back and forth between an ad network and an SDK, there are companies that have specialized in that integration with all the ad networks, and then there are other companies that are really good at telling you what's happening within your app. So that's why, for example, under in-app analytics, you see Google Analytics, but you don't see it under third-party attribution, because Google Analytics currently great for in-app actions, but if you want to attribute your ad campaigns, you want to use one of these companies here at the top.
Absolutely. So referral analytics, when it comes to apps, is really its own beast, and the in-app analytics partners, you would use those in terms of figuring out how to iterate your app best. So they're really product focused, how to iterate your app best to get the best lifetime value out of your users, or to get the best average revenue per user. Finally, you have App Store analytics, so that, high-level trends, market trends. If you want to look up the profile of a specific app, look at the install base, App Annie, Sensor Tower. These are really good services for that. Cool. And then in terms of basically tracking success through AdWords, you have a couple of different options. You can actually track codelessly through Google Play. So this is a really easy solution. Again, if you're really worried about updating your app, publishing an update to the App Store, and you just want to kind of see if AdWords works at a baseline, you can actually just track Android installs codelessly. So as soon as you link your app to AdWords and start doing promo, you could just track installs. And that's something really important to note. Usually when you're tracking attribution, when you're tracking installs through a third party, it's not actually installs, it's app opens. When you track codelessly through Google Play, we're tracking installs. So it's really important to note that difference. Your other option is actually implementing the AdWords SDK. And the real value add there is you can start to optimize towards lifetime value, so you can see actually in-app actions. And then finally, again, if you're running a lot of different promo across different networks, third-party SDKs are probably the way to go, just in terms of figuring out where your users are coming from, what the ROI of each network is, and kind of iterating your ad campaigns accordingly.
Yeah, and I think depending on the situation your company is in, one of these options will make more sense, right? So if you're only running with Google and you're very new to app promotion and you just have an Android app, the Play codeless conversion tracking may be a good solution for you.
AdWords SDK is great, again, if you're only running with Google. All the other
networks have their own SDKs too, right? So if you go to your developer and say, I want to put 5 SDKs in my app, they're not going to like you,
which is why these third parties exist, because you can put one in
and you can track multiple networks. Again, we're going to do another session on tracking. We could talk about this for hours. So tune in next time for more on attribution. Today we're going to give you the lay of the land for Google app promotion. So we have, and a lot of people don't know this because it's sort of it's kind of hidden in AdWords, but we have app install ad formats for all the major channels on Google, right there in AdWords. So you can run app promotion ads in the Play Store, on Google.com, in other apps, in the mobile web, and then lastly on YouTube. This is probably the easiest way to get started. So if you have an Android app and you want to run on all of these different platforms, we've launched something called Universal App Campaigns. Super easy to set up. Basically, you put in your app, you put in 4 lines of ad text, you set a budget, and you set a target cost per install. And we're going to go out and find installs at that cost per install. We're going to create keywords for you. We're going to do all the targeting on display. If you add a video, we're going to do all the targeting on YouTube. And the algorithm is going to automatically shift budget and shift bids to hit your target cost per install. So worst case, it can't hit your target cost per install. It throttles the volume. You don't get any volume. Best case, you get a ton of installs at your target CPI. Great, so that is universal app campaigns. We initially thought, right, Jesse, this is going to be for smaller advertisers because it's easy and it's automated. What we found is that everyone is using this, and that includes large advertisers because it allows you to for big advertisers, even if they have a separate search campaign or a separate YouTube campaign or display campaign and they want to dedicate budget to those channels, it allows people to set a catch-all campaign. So maybe they have a low CPI target in their UAC campaign, they drive a lot of installs there, and then wherever they notice really good LTV and they want to allocate more budget, they can set up a separate campaign for search, display, or YouTube.
Definitely. One thing I want to emphasize is, especially if you're coming from desktop, you're used to using AdWords, like maybe the first month or two you're kind of iterating it towards success. Something that Max noted, the system is inherently cost efficient. So you set that target CPI right off the bat, and it'll pretty consistently, after a very short learning period of maybe 7 to 10 days, hit that target CPI. So that's something really important to note. The scale might be an issue, but cost efficiency is almost never going to be an issue when it comes to at least front-end CPI metrics.
Yeah, and just to be clear too, you're not going to see it overshoot for long periods of time. If it overshoots, it's going to undershoot, and it's going to average out at your target CPI. And honestly, for the most part,
UAC campaign, getting it on day 1 or 2, it's pretty effective.
UAC campaigns day 1 or 2. Again, all of this is automated. The budget distribution is automated. The bids, the ads, the targeting. It's even going to A/B test your ad creative for you. So it's going to pull in imagery and ratings and app icons from the Play Store, and it's going to use that in all the different creatives, and it's going to see what works well. If it tries a keyword, for example, on .com and in the Play Store, and it finds success in the Play Store, it's going to allocate budget there. It's going to it's not going to bid on .com anymore. Reporting is a little bit more limited than you might be used to if you're a traditional SEM advertiser. So you can break out the different channels, you can segment and see, for example, search, display, and YouTube broken out. But what you're not going to see, and you're not going to see this on a search app install campaign as well, is the difference between your Play traffic and your .com traffic. We treat that traffic basically as the same. In both cases, users are searching for a specific keyword and then downloading the app. And again, the automation is going to take those keywords that, in the case of UAC, it's auto-generating, and it's going to test them on each platform and automatically shift to the correct platform for that keyword. And unfortunately, just given the Play privacy agreements, it's really difficult for us to split this data out, and it's not something that is on the roadmap currently. And we talked a little bit about this, but you can also run a standalone search app install campaign. So on Android, this campaign will automatically extend into the Google Play Store. And on iOS, this is also available. Obviously, it doesn't extend into the App Store. That would be nice. But you can run a standalone search app install campaign. And something I want to note here, Jesse, is, again, we're using automation. So when you use automation, your best practices are slightly different than you're used to. Structure is still extremely important in terms of ad groups and campaigns. What is less important is match types and the number of keywords. When you're using Conversion Optimizer, and this is, by the way, a different version of Conversion Optimizer, and we're going to touch on that in a minute, you want to give the system as much inventory as possible. So if you had hundreds of keywords in broad match and you set a target cost per install, again, the system will hit your target cost per install, and it's going to be, in the end, a much more scalable campaign because you gave it more inventory. And if you're thinking, well, the certain keywords may generate better LTV, and so I might want to change my cost per install bid, just break out different ad groups for that, and you can set different CPI bids at the ad group level. And I wanted to also highlight this.
There is a difference between a search app install ad unit and an app extension. There's been a little bit of confusion about this. So an app extension still allows the user, the main link is to the website, but it also provides them a way to install the app. And an app install ad only sends the user to the Play Store or to the App Store. So what you want to decide for yourself is, where do I prefer users to go if they're on a compatible device? All of these app install ad units only serve to folks that are on this the specified OS. So let's say they're an Android user, and they're using a version of the software that's compatible with the app that you put in at the campaign level. So it's not going to serve to folks who can't install the app, but the app install ad unit's only going to give them the option to go and download the app.
Definitely. One more thing to note, if you're running Android search, I just can't emphasize what Max said enough. Be really aggressive about as many keywords as possible. This might be, again, counterintuitive for you guys coming from desktop, where you have to be very meticulous about match types, the amount of keywords, etc.
It'll make you cringe a little bit if you have a background in SEM, right?
Right.
And it's not to say that you can't sort of employ strategies where you look for the best keywords and you break them into new ad groups or new campaigns. You can certainly do that to optimize towards LTV. But in order to generate scale on these campaigns, you're going to want to give it a lot of inventory and just trust that SEO can find the right keywords for you. And like I said before, these are the ads in Google Play. And if you set up a search mobile app install campaign on Android, it's automatically going to serve in the Play Store as well for those keywords. So you should think about, are there keywords that I wouldn't normally use on .com that I would use in Play? And I'll give you an example. On .com, someone might search for shopping app. On Play, they're only going to search for shopping, right? They're already in the Play Store. They don't need to put app at the end of it. So that's something to think about when you're creating your keyword list, is there may actually be keywords that you want to include that you weren't going to include now that you know this is serving in the Play Store.
Cool, so now we're going to talk about the display network, which is essentially our AdMob network, which includes 80,000 plus apps, plus the mobile web, which is something that, it's basically one campaign that you create, a display campaign, and it's opted into both. So it's in-app and in browser. And there are a lot of really cool formats that you can advertise in. You can advertise, your basic banner ads, your static interstitials, interactive interstitials. There are a lot of rich formats that you can use essentially when advertising.
I think it's just amazing. We just redesigned these ad units, and you'll see the one on the screen here that's a text ad. So we're pulling in a couple lines of text that you put in, but we're combining that with the cover photo from the Play Store, the iTunes Store, your app icon, your ratings. And what's also cool about this format is the user has to click on the download circle there. They can't just click on the middle accidentally. And that's a big problem with mobile ads, because there's not a lot of real estate on a phone. There's a lot of click fraud. This is an effort to
some of that click fraud and get you good conversion rates on these clicks. We don't really care about driving clicks, right? We want to drive installs, and we want it to be
some of the end
when users click on your ad.
Definitely. And interstitials are definitely going to do a little bit better than your typical kind of banner ads. And another thing to note is those auto-generated ads. So you input a couple lines of text and create those ads. That's 70% of AdMob right there covered just with that inventory. So if you really, again, just want to test out, all right, is display going to be viable for me? You don't have to necessarily have an in-house design team. You can just input those couple lines of text. The ads get auto-generated, and if that works, then go crazy from there in terms of creating your own image ads.
Yeah, and you mentioned AdMob. So and this is one of those terms that I hear a lot of confusion on, right? So AdMob is our mobile in-app display network. It's how AdMob is a platform where a lot of apps monetize by putting ads in their apps, obviously. So whenever you hear ad mob thrown around, that's that in-app inventory, and then mobile GDN is where we're serving those in-browser ads. But in both cases, they're app install focused ads. Whether you're using auto-generated or you're uploading an image interstitial, this is a different ad format made specifically to drive app installs.
Exactly. So now we're going to talk about video interstitial ads. This is a really cool way to give the user kind of an actual experience of the app. You know, it's a really rich format. It's actually video, but it's showing the video in other apps. And like Max said, you can actually click to download the app right there. So you can install the app right there. Something to note is 80% of people actually are watching these videos in portrait mode, so with their phones vertically. And we now support that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really exciting development. And you know, the difference between interstitials and, you know, your regular kind of banner ads, you're going to see a similar type of difference between video and just regular static interstitials.
Yeah, and another thing I'd note here is you mentioned give the user an experience, right, of what the app's going to be like. What I hear from all my advertisers is, and across networks, not just with Google, is that video is driving higher quality users. And it makes sense because the user knows what they're doing when they install the app. They know what the app's going to be like. They've seen it in action already. And so they install the app, and they tend to be they're higher engagement, right? Whereas other folks, if it's let's say a banner ad, there are going to be some users who click on that to see what it is, and maybe even to install to see what it's like. And so this is a great way, and YouTube's another way, we're going to talk about that next, to show users what the app's like before they install it.
Absolutely. A best practice here with video in general, whether it's YouTube or in-app, always have an end card with a screenshot of the app page, the app logo, etc. You don't want the person to finish the video and then not exactly know what to do at that point, whether they download it, you know, what the video is for. So always include maybe like a 5-second ad card.
Cool. Interactive interstitial. So this is really the cutting edge of
kind of display ad formats. And like Max said, this is all about, you know, if you're the app maker, this is pre-qualifying the user. And if you're the consumer, this is about having a really rich, good ad experience that's just far better than, you know, you know, maybe an interstitial. Not to knock interstitials, you know, hitting you. And so
it's an evolution, right?
It's an evolution.
It's the next step.
Yes, to put it positively, exactly. And so this is a good example. This is Zalora, an e-commerce app, and this is a carousel of all of their products, and you can kind of scroll through, see the different products. Another good example is we had a fast food company offer a discount, and you could actually scratch the ad itself and uncover the discount. You uncovered a little promo code. And so interactive ad formats are definitely the future. And again, when optimizing towards LTV, you could just, you know, tell a lot more about a user's willingness to engage with the app if they install it after seeing an ad like this than other ad formats. It's a really kind of optimized ad format.
It's nice too because it's HTML5. You know, it could be a much more complicated, development-heavy language that we're using here, but HTML5 is something that your developers could whip together pretty quickly. So doing something like this is certainly worth the extra development time because, again, it's just giving the user more context before they click and allowing them to be more informed.
Absolutely. Well, so in terms of your targeting options, you have a really, really wide array of targeting options. Whenever you have a lot of data on users like Google does, you're going to have a really wide variety of targeting options. And so the way I like to think about targeting is you could split it up between context and audience targeting, right? So you can target based on where the person is, you know, in terms of, you know, which apps they're using or who that person is. So the first category we have on this slide is who that person is, their device profile. So you can target people who have specific types of apps installed on their phone. And you probably want to do one that's similar to the app that you're promoting. So if you're an e-commerce app, you'd want to basically show your ads to people who have other e-commerce apps installed, right, etc. App category targeting, same rule of thumb in terms of similar apps to yours, but this time you're showing the ad in those other apps, so it's context-based, not audience-based. A couple of actually Google unique and really exciting targeting options. You have paid app install targeting, and so this is used, based on our proprietary Google Play data. We know who's made basically purchases in the Google Play Store, and we can target people who are likely to make those IAPs, those in-app purchases in your apps. And if you have an IAP-based app, an in-app purchase-based app, using this targeting method could be
really, really crucial. You can do new device targeting, so people who've
just gotten their devices and are looking to install new apps. That can be a proxy for willingness to purchase in many cases.
And then you can do placement
targeting. So again, not whole app topics, but specific apps that you want to target. You can do location targeting. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then finally, something new that we just actually announced.
Yeah, this is exciting.
At GDC, really exciting. Active user targeting. So you could target people who are active in specific app categories over the last 30 days. And again, this is just a really good proxy for, is this user going to be relevant to my app?
Yeah, I mean, the most common use case of this so far has been gaming. If somebody is active in another mobile game, then you can target that audience. And we've seen really good stats come back in terms of LTV from this cohort of users. They tend to be a lot more engaged, and the purchase rates tend to be higher as well once they get into the app.
Absolutely. One more thing to note is the more you limit the targeting, so if you do paid user targeting, if you do active user targeting, again, you're optimizing for a better quality user. You're targeting a better quality user. You're also targeting a narrower set of very valuable users. So you should make sure to bid up to get access to that inventory. If you bid the same as you do on, a run of network targeting or topic targeting, then you might not get, the volume that you want.
Yep.
TrueView ads on YouTube. This is, one of our best ad formats is always going to be YouTube. Again, it's just going to give you that really rich experience. You're going to actually be able to get that experience of the app before actually using it. The way I like to put it is it's kind of low funnel and upper funnel at the same time. And the reason I say that is because you actually have a companion banner, and you can actually install the app directly from the video itself as a consumer. Yep. And so a lot of people use this as a performance play. If they want installs at a specific CPI, and this is actually something new. You can actually target a CPI on YouTube and achieve that just like you can on any other network. Now you should probably bid a little higher. Again, it's going to be a little more expensive, but these users are again going to be more pre-qualified. They're going to have seen a really rich creative that really represents the value add of your app.
Yeah, and it's so important with YouTube to have a really good creative. I mean, the reality is that with most apps on search and on display, we can deliver good performance despite the creative. I mean, within reason, right? Because the ad formats are almost identical, and in this case, you're paying per click. But on YouTube, you're paying per view, and we need the user to take an action. So you're getting billed even if they don't take an action, and that's important because it means that if your video doesn't include an end card, like you said before, that says, "Hey, you got to press the button," don't watch the next video yet. It's time to install the app. It's not going to work. It's just simply not. People aren't going to click. So this is a performance product, 100%. You will get some side benefits of brand uplift as well. Some people do it as a nice hybrid brand and performance product, but we're using this to optimize towards cost per install, just like we are on all the other products. And then of course, then we're looking at LTV off those users.
One more important thing to note: a best practice here, as on AdMob, and this is again going to make you cringe a little, maybe be a little counterintuitive, is actually you want to target run of network. So you want to target all app users in both cases. That's incredibly crucial. Again, we're going to Conversion Optimizer, which is our bidding type, is going to automate, and Max is going to get into that, going to automate the targeting for you. So always target run of network, and then you could do specific targeting on top of that with dedicated targeting and ad groups. But that broad targeting base is really important right off the bat. It looks like we actually have a question from the audience. So it's actually about UAC campaigns from Brad E. For universal campaigns, we put in 4 lines of ad text. How much of an impact does this have on CPI? Would it make sense to create multiple universal campaigns with variant text and have them compete against each other? I would say, generally speaking, just try one campaign, because Max is going to get into Conversion Optimizer. The way our bidding works is on a campaign level. And the more data one campaign gets, the better it's going to perform. So you don't want to split the data among different campaign types, if possible.
Yeah, and so you put in 4 lines of ad text. If one line is working well as a headline on the Play Store, but another line is working well as a headline on display, it's going to automatically optimize for that. And again, this is one of the trade-offs, is you get the automation, but you get less control. So you're not going to see all this detailed data on which of those lines is performing the best. You're just going to see the aggregate data at the campaign level. But like Jesse said, if you duplicate and you have 2 campaigns, the data is split, and Conversion Optimizer is going to do a worse job at optimizing towards the right stuff. So you certainly can try it, but it wouldn't be a recommended best practice.
Definitely. If you know the campaign is not performing, you can mess around with the ad text within the campaign after you allow the campaign to ramp up. So it's not doing well after 2 to 3 weeks, then you can go back, change the ad text in that single campaign.
Yeah. We're gonna go. By the way, this is what the flow looks like. So people on YouTube, you're actually not leaving the YouTube app to install the app, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So you install it right there within the app, and the user can return to you watching their content, and it'll install in the background. But I do want to jump down to Conversion Optimizer, because I think this is where a lot of the questions are going to be, and then we'll jump right into the Q&A. So I know there have been a lot of different versions of Conversion Optimizer
the last decade, and many of you have probably tried some of these before. So I just want to make a couple of things clear. The first is that this is a different algorithm entirely.
It was built by a different engineering team. It's app focused. The second thing is
we have a consistent conversion event for app campaigns. That's very different than web. On web, all these advertisers
and everything have to do probably tried some conversion events with different websites that look and feel completely differently. So one user might have transactions, one may have registrations, one website may be amazing, one may not, one may not convert well. It's a lot different when you're dealing with apps. We're sending everyone to the Play Store or the App Store, and they're all completing the same event, which is an install. Because of that, we have network data, average data, that we can use to make assumptions. And so, for example, we can tell, all right, for shopping apps, on average, the conversion rate is this on this channel, on these devices. And so when you put in your target cost per install, it can do the math and divide that out into a CPC bid that is almost accurate, right? It needs to learn a little bit, but it's almost there. And it's also looking at what app you're advertising. So if if it's a shopping app, it's going to look at the shopping app numbers. It's not going to look at the entire network. What this means is that you can actually turn Conversion Optimizer, and you should turn Conversion Optimizer on day 1 of the campaign. So right when you launch the campaign, you want to turn it on. And this is recommended for all campaign types on Android and iOS, except for iOS search. And I'm going to get into that in just a minute as to why that's not available. Like we've mentioned many times, you want to give SEO as much inventory as you can, because what happens when you start limiting inventory, like let's say you target just active shoppers, and you could do this in one campaign, but if that was your core campaign that you wanted to drive a lot of volume on, all of the people that fit that bucket are being bid on by a lot of different advertisers. When you target the entire network and you let SEO use all of the data that it has, and has a lot more signals than you have in the front end to toggle on and off, it can go out and find a lot of cheaper installs that are outside of these buckets that aren't being targeted by as many advertisers. So that's the recommended best practice, is to go very broad with CO on display to do run of network. And if you want to do a separate campaign, for example, for active shoppers, you could do that. But what you want to avoid is doing your targeting the way that you're probably used to doing it, honestly, on display and some other channels, where you're going very, very narrow at the beginning, and then you're going out from there. It's kind of the opposite with app install for that reason. Like I said, you can use this on all the campaign types except for iOS search, and the reason is you will not see conversions ever in AdWords for iOS search campaigns. You're only going to see the data if you use one of those third-party tracking companies we mentioned earlier. And the reason is Apple has some strict policies around giving out the IDFA of the user, which is that identifier. It's kind of like the cookie of the user on the click in a browser. So for iOS search, we can get the installs, we know who installed it, but we don't have anything to match it up to say it was that guy that clicked on the search ad for iOS search. We're hoping that something comes along in the future. Maybe Apple lightens up on this policy and we can launch something there. But for now, you'll want to use one of those third-party track companies if you want to track iOS search. But for everything else, you want to use Conversion Optimizer from day one. We're going to skip over deep linking. The main point here is you should have your app set up for deep linking. It's only going to help you. Deep linking is a way of linking to a specific page within your app, and it includes indexing your app so that Google Organic can see the content in there and serve it to mobile users.
Deep linking is also important for re-engagement as well.
Right, so you can re-engage to specific cohorts of users using app install campaigns as well. On display, you can do it for iOS and Android, and for Android, you can also do it on Android search. We won't go too deep into this today, but at the end of this, we're going to show our team's alias. Feel free to reach out to us if you have more questions on deep linking. So we had some questions, so I want to get back to this. One of the things I'm struggling with when it comes to my app install campaigns on search is low quality score and the resulting lack of impressions and clicks and installs. What would be the best way of increasing quality score in search, and how would I go about increasing the landing page experience of quality score? Yeah, this is tough, right? Because it's one landing page. It's your Play Store or your App Store page, and whatever you change affects your organic users too. You don't have the option of doing a custom page for your app campaigns. The first thing to note is that the quality score you're seeing in your search campaign is actually not correct in the front end. This is just a front end error with app install campaigns. And so it may say like 3 and be giving you a notification for low quality score. That's actually not your real quality score that's being used in the auction. This is something that's going to be fixed very soon. The second thing to note is how you asked how to sort of optimize for it. Good structure is still the best way to go. I would be looking at creating ad groups and including sort of the keywords that are in your ad group into your ad text. They're less prominent on an app install campaign because the headline of the ad is always the name of the app. But the description text you can certainly, and by the way, in the interface you'll still see headline. Don't put bogus there. Put something there, but it's not going to be what shows on the ad. But you still have the description line. I'd put the keywords in there where possible. Have good structure. You already know how to do that. Landing page. This kind of delves more into App Store optimization, but make sure you have a nice, solid description there with some of the terms that make the most sense. But don't make changes to it specifically for your app campaigns, because that's going to affect your organic traffic as well.
I agree with that.
There's also a really good guide called "The Secrets to Success on Google Play." You can Google that. It has some good on App Store optimization. We're not going to get too much into that right now, but that would be a good resource for you to take a look at. And some of those same tips will apply to the App Store on iOS as well. you want to take that?
Cool, yeah. So Pat G asks, regarding app installed targeting, can you show ads based on the carrier of the phone, target Sprint versus AT&T customers? So you can show ads based on carrier. Yes.
You
Short
can.
answer.
Yes, you can. We also have some questions that we get asked a lot. So let me answer some of these. So can you target keywords separately for .com versus play? The answer again is no there, unfortunately. Whatever keywords you target will serve in both places, but if you're using Conversion Optimizer, it's automatically going to serve in the right place. Do we promote iOS apps? Absolutely. We get asked this a lot, I think, obviously because we're Google and we own Play. Do we only do Android? A lot of people will come to us and say, I want to promote my Android app because you guys are Google. But we also do iOS, and our offering is almost identical with the exception of that small tracking intricacy that we talked about earlier on search. But our iOS search offering is still great. You just need to do a little bit more manual optimization, and display on YouTube functions exactly the same as it does on Android.
Absolutely. That's just really important to note. If you have an app on both operating systems, you can do full promo.
Do you want to take this one?
Sure. Okay, so a lot of people ask, hey, I'm new to app promotion. How do I get started? Well, it really depends on your goals, right? Are you looking for, just scale right off the bat, like you want to get like a really big user base and that's what you're going for at a certain target CPI? Or target CPI isn't that important to me. Ultimately, how these users back out, their LTV, and the quality of the user is most important to me. So ROAS, return on ad spend, ROI, that's most important to me. So depending on which you decide, that's going to kind of determine how you start. If you want scale right off the bat, the Universal App Campaign, UAC campaign, is definitely going to be your best bet. Because Conversion Optimizer, our bid type, works on a campaign level, the more access you have to inventory, the more scale you're going to get. The more data you get, the more scale you get. The better you hit your target CPI. Having search, AdMob, and YouTube in one network is going to create just this awesome campaign type that's really going to hit your target CPI fast and scale very, very well. And so that's a really good first foray into AdWords if you're really just looking for scale and CPI. If you really care about LTV, then getting more granular with specific search terms on search, ad formats on display, and figuring out which ad formats work best and which placements work best, as well as YouTube, and getting granular with the targeting on all of those, while again having that run-of-network ad group is going to be your best bet.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. So let's say you know that on average for your app, just in aggregate, people convert at a certain rate. If you could acquire users for $3, then those users would be profitable for you. Maybe you run a UAC campaign at $3, and then you have a separate search campaign or YouTube or display campaign, and you test that, and you see what are the conversion rates off of those campaigns. And you may find that one of them has a much higher conversion rate than your average. And in that case, you can now bid like $6 on your search campaign or your display campaign. And that also unlocks a lot of scale. So I think it's important to note you don't have to choose between UAC and sort of total automation and these broken out campaigns. You can run a little bit of each, and that's what most of our big advertisers do.
Most of our big advertisers run every campaign type. Like Max said, they use Universal App Campaigns for those initial learnings, which network kind of works, and then they get more granular from there. So I totally agree. The other thing to note is about the Universal App Campaign is that the keywords that it generates are going to be pretty brand focused and focused on your genre of app as well. And so really catching that kind of long tail traffic, all the keyword variations associated with queries for your app is going to be important in terms of building a dedicated search campaign, maybe on top of your Universal App Campaign.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to, depending on how much budget you put into a UAC campaign, is going to change the allocation, right? I mean, if you're running at really low scale, it maybe it's going after very specific super relevant terms. If you increase the budget, maybe it's going to try testing a lot of other inventory. It's going to try testing display. It's going to try testing YouTube. But again, it will hit your target CPI. I can't emphasize this enough. And if it can't, it just won't spend money. So that's it. I think, again, we're going to have another session coming up very soon on app attribution. Really, really important. I recommend it for all of you if you're interested in running app campaigns that you attend that session. Make sure you're getting high-quality users, not just driving installs, but driving actual revenue for your business. It's been great. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.